All right, welcome everybody. I wanted to get into a discussion. It's not too often talked about in this community, but nonetheless, it is something that I've noticed as of late, and that's the rise of mental illnesses that are unchecked in this society. The level of people, and it's and all. Before I go into that, it just seems to be a lack of prioritizing mental illnesses, specifically in America, and the amount of consistent growing issues related to them. Over the years, as I've sat back, and especially being in the narcissist awareness community, I've noticed way more other instances of mental illnesses and stuff from people in general than just narcissistic personality disorder. And this is why I always say we can't, even though we run into people who we may feel are narcissistic, we can't negate the fact that there are other mental illnesses that people may be dealing with, right? And mental illnesses, at least, they encompass a wide range of conditions, from anxiety to depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and an array of other mental illnesses as well. The interactive portion of this now today comes more to the forefront when you include social media, where a lot of this may have been under wraps because people like that you weren't able to see them expressing themselves or whatnot in these social media platforms, right? And a bigger portion of it is a lot of people still cannot recognize people who have possible mental illnesses. Of course, if you're not a trained professional or anything like that, you probably wouldn't. But according to recent data, nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experiences some form of mental illness. And this is annually. And what's alarming in these numbers are they're not just high, they're consistently rising every year. The rate of anxiety, depression, especially amongst young people, they've surged over the last decade alone. So just from 10 years ago, when I first started getting into YouTube and speaking about narcissism, it soared from there, right? We look at stuff like suicide rates. Those have increased by 30%. 30%. Suicides. And especially the younger population, which is disproportionately affected by this. This is since 2000, since the year 2000. 30%'s a lot, folks. Right? So we have to look at, there's a lot of people who are unstable, mentally unstable, running around, who need actual help. And in most cities, that is the lowest tier of help that on the spectrum. They don't have a lot for, mental health advocation, at least to where people can actually get the right help that they need. It's not even a lot of money that goes into most of these programs. This is why you see a lot of homelessness and stuff like that. There's just not enough resources being put into mental health in general. So the question is, why is this happening? A few things that I've noticed: the social causes, right? That's raising mental illnesses. Again, it seems like when this social media and stuff took off, the technology, right? These social media platforms that create environments that's really ripe for comparison and cyberbullying and addictive behaviors. And there's been studies that show that it has a direct correlation between heavy social media use and increased anxiety and depression, particularly in teenagers. So if we're creating the conditions through these social media things, which, you know, if you're old enough and you came from a certain era, we didn't have that growing up. We didn't have that other aspect to deal with. But the younger generation is having all of these different anxieties and stuff where they're being depressed at a much lower age than anyone else that's older would have been dealing with, right? So they're coming out of high school and junior high already depressed with disorders that were basically formed in those years for them, right? The always connected culture disrupts sleep, and it fosters unrealistic standards for success and appearance. That weighs heavy, especially on individuals that are younger, teenagers, juveniles, etc. Then we go into the economic pressures, the rising costs of living, student loan debt, economic inequality. All of this contributes to chronic stress, right? You look at, for the millennials, the Gen Z, which are facing now stagnant job markets and wages, right? All this leads to financial insecurity, which creates further anxiety and stress, and it just perpetuates, right? Economic instability exacerbates mental illnesses like what I just mentioned, and depression comes out of that as a result. Often, you have the workplace stress and burnouts, right? Here in America, our culture glorifies the hustle and productivity, and often at the expense of the mental well-being of those individuals. If you look at the typical call center environment, those are toxic environments, very toxic. A lot of high pressure to produce sales or pressure to upsell. They're being constantly pushed, and it becomes a stressful thing, right? Can't just do their job because, for example, and I hear this from people that I deal with it, and they pass on information, but when people are in like certain call center things where when you go back several years later, they might have only stuck to one particular thing. Let's say they were working for a internet company or something like that, and they were only having to troubleshoot certain problems, and that was it. Well, now a lot of these companies have consolidated and made one job into multiple jobs. So now, instead of just troubleshooting, they have to upsell and do all these things and have metrics and numbers to keep ahead of. If your numbers are not right and this and that, these create added pressures, added stress onto workers, at least, that normally wouldn't have had that, right? So work environments are also producing high levels of anxiety and stress, which can lead to depression, which often will present itself later in some sort of mental breakdown or mental illness, and the individuals that are in these environments. We got the cultural and social influences too. The individualism and isolation. And in America's culture, there's a lot of emphasis of success, right? Where we're often neglecting the importance of community and connection, right? It's everybody's like to themselves now. They're so locked into their world and what's going on specifically for them. And this leads to social isolation, which is a key risk factor for mental illnesses. I've seen a study where it was something saying loneliness is now considered as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And that was something according to health experts. And so, people may not think anything's wrong with it, but for some, it might be your element. But for a lot, being alone it's not good. I remember this movie long time ago. I think what was the guy's name that was in it? And he was trapped on an island by himself. What was that? Some of y'all might know it, but I think Tom Hanks was in the movie, and he had a little volleyball who became his companion. He made a face with the volleyball. He would talk to it every day. He would even answer for the volleyball. He was having real conversations with the volleyball. It was something to give him a sense of not being alone. Humans do not, average human being was not designed to function alone, to be alone. We're social creatures. It's how we were wired, right? We have the stigma and access issues. And although awareness has improved about mental illness, it's still stigmatized in many communities. People don't want to go get therapy. They don't want to go actually get the help or whatnot because it's looked at like a bad thing. And a lot of these stigmas prevent people from seeking help, while those that do may face, ridicule or, something of that sort. A lot of this, though, you're starting to see just by awareness, if you're paying attention, more people that are becoming and coming unhinged. A lot of them. And this is one of the things I've noticed why there's so much, it's a lot more of what people are seeing. And some of these, again, in which people are classifying as narcissists, man, they have a whole nother different mental illness going on. You can only get so much out of these videos to be able to, what people are self-diagnosing people and so forth. But I think and I believe that it's important to have preventative measures where schools and workplaces should actually implement programs focusing on mental health education, mindfulness and real stress management, you know, in-depth stress management. They need to be more public health campaigns, which highlight the importance of, proper sleep, exercise, and, community support. These are the things that should be focused on in general in the society. I mean, you have to have people being mentally healthy. That's a major. That's a biggie. The more the more mentally ill people that are being forced to have to perform in society, they have to take care of themselves, make a living, whatever. The more you're gonna see a lot of, you're just gonna see a lot of these situations in which leads a lot of people to like these videos and so forth. Because it's at this point, I mean, it's all around us. And the rise of mental health illnesses, and specifically in America, it's multifaceted. It's a multifaceted issue with roots in social, economic, cultural, and biological factors, man, for that instance. And while there's no one single solution, at least the understanding of, of what the causes are, could help advocate for better policies and support systems, and even for individual practices. It's a problem now. You see it everywhere. So I just wanted to speak on that and bring that to light. I don't know. Tell me your views. What do y'all see when what have you noticed over the past decade or so? Leave a comment. Anyway, consider to like, share, subscribe. Till next time, have a good one.